Time of the gentleman has expired. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir, for being here. A lot of focus has been on your cross-sales or your cross-sell culture at the institution. It's something that the institution's been very proud of. When you acquired Wachovia back in 2008, your former chairman, Dick Kovacevic, who I think was probably the architect of your cross-sale program, said we're combining the industry's #1 ranked customer service culture of Wachovia, and I was a very substantial Wachovia customer in my prior life in business, and I had nothing but a terrific experience.
Thank you.
With the industry's #1 sales and cross-selling culture of Wells Fargo. This is 2008. Analyst reports across the last decade would talk about the cross-sell culture of Wells Fargo, but several analysts also pointed out that there was risk inherent in this, and in fact that this culture might be undermining the customer experience, including a well-known banking analyst who said Wells Fargo suggests that a successful bank is one that keeps seeking new customers and selling as aggressively as possible more products to them and not getting bogged down in customer service. So the question I have is your board of directors, because when you have a very large enterprise like you do, the governance process is incredibly important. Did the board of directors ever discuss at the board level whether the cross-sell culture had gotten out of control at the bank? Because you were clearly outperforming your peers, and you were proud of that, and you bragged about it, and you had a swagger about it. And the law of large numbers just leads us all to believe that it's very hard to significantly outperform your peers, particularly when they're very big, and they're also sophisticated operators like your competitors are. Did your board ever talk about this issue? Did they ever actually sit around and examine whether this culture had gotten out of control, particularly after 4 or 5 years of having to let go so many people?
You know, Congressman, I don't know all of the things that our board talks about because I'm not in all the meetings, but I will say this. Cross-sell is our shorthand for depth of relationship. We love that. When customers do more, they get more value. It helps everyone.
Right, but you also make more money when you cross-sell. I mean, there's two ways of looking at cross-sell. It's either really good for you or it's really good for the customer, depending upon whether they actually needed the product or not. I'm really getting at the board's responsibility, because your board is responsible to make sure that you're setting the right tone at the top.
Correct.
You're also responsible for that. I'll come back to that in a second. But the board is responsible for actually examining the business practices of the bank. So did your board, you're the chairman of your board, so you may not be there. They have executive session where they may ask you to leave. You're certainly not there when they discuss your compensation. But for most of the meetings, you're there. You set the agenda. You probably sit in on most of the committee meetings. I chaired a public company board for many years. Did the board ever talk about whether the culture in the retail banking business and all of the accolades you were receiving for your cross-sell success? Several analysts had focused on the fact that you were overly aggressive with respect to this. Did they ever actually ask the question, should we look into this? Did they ever exercise their fiduciary responsibilities around this issue? In other words, ensuring that your customers were getting an appropriate service, which they obviously weren't.
Yes, and yes, the answer is yes.
So you can get us evidence that the board actually has examined this issue across the last several years?
Yes, I can do that.
Did you ever give speeches where you said it is as important to make sure we're putting our customers' interests first as it is to achieve our cross-sell objectives?
I don't recall. I give lots of speeches, but I always talk when I'm with team members or out in the public. I try to talk about the fact that what's good for customers is good for us. And I think it's really important, because you're asking some really good questions here, that the idea that somehow having customers have more products that they don't use helps us is absolutely wrong. It only helps if they use them.
If they pay for them, it helps you.
Virtually all of them are free.
Getting back to this tone at the top, can you find any evidence and share with us where you actually said it is as important to make sure we put our customers' interests first as it is to achieve the sales goals we've set for this institution?
In fact, I don't know, I can't recall all my words, but I do know this. Every talk I talk about, it's about customers
Right.
and putting them first.
Now, your largest shareholder has a famous expression where he says, it takes your whole life to build your reputation, and you can lose it in 5 minutes. Do you think you and your institution have permanently lost its reputation?
We have a lot of work to build it back, and I'm committed to all I can to make that happen. Thank you.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The chair now recognizes the